Welcome to another episode of I Am the Marketing Plan, a Junae Brown experience. I'm Junae Brown, and today's episode is called Parasocial. Y'all, we do not know these people. Okay, so parasocial relationships are something that I think about all the time as someone who's in marketing because marketing, as I always say, is all about psychology. In order to be good at marketing, you have to be good with people, right? But I also think about it from the standpoint of societally, right? Like where we are in society, I think a lot of the feeling of chaos can be very much driven by parasocial relationships. So I'm going to start you guys off with the textbook definition of parasocial, and then I'm going to go into more so what it actually means. What are the good things about it? What are the negative things about it? How it can affect your own personal life, and kind of just what it's doing to the world at large. Not all things about it are bad, but hey, man. So, parasocial. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided relationship in which one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time, and the other party, who's usually a public figure, celebrity, or influencer, is completely unaware of their existence. The term was coined in 1956 by sociologists Donald Horton and R. Richard Wohl. Okay, so parasocial, right? Literally, a parasocial relationship is feeling like you have or having, at least in your mind, a relationship with a public figure, celebrity, or influencer, or even politician in some places, in some ways, right? That doesn't actually exist. Like it's very much how we're in the era of people feeling like they know people because of social media, but not actually knowing them in real life. However, the amount of time, energy, and emotions you put forth towards a person is as if you actually know them. So that means like when you see people, camped out in the comments, and don't get me wrong, every once in a while, I think, it's social media. It's conversational. You know what I mean? Like commenting is what we're supposed to do. It totally makes sense. But I think there's a difference between commenting or chiming in and like getting invested. Like the people who are writing like full paragraphs, or the people who you see them under every single post, the people who spend time arguing in the comments with people. And that may be you, but it's okay. We're going to get you some help. Now, listen, seriously though, I want to talk about this because I feel like, especially post-COVID, this has become the norm because we spent so much time inside, so much time online, even more than before, because COVID wasn't the start. I think it was the perpetuation. I hope perpetuation is a word, but I think it was the perpetuation of this, like, this being the normal thing to do. Like we have spent so much time online, and now because it's beneficial for people to show their lives online, it really makes you feel like you know someone, and it also makes you feel entitled to them. One thing I want to talk about for sure is the illusion of access. So what a parasocial relationship does is, you know, I think it makes people forget that whatever you're seeing from said celebrity, influencer, or public figure is what they want to show you, right? It's never the entire picture of their lives. No one, even the most seemingly vulnerable, authentic, personable, and like consistently sharing public figure, celebrity, or influencer is not telling you every bit of their lives. They are absolutely keeping many things off camera. And so, Instagram stories, vlogs, going live, TikTok, even Twitter, X in some ways, will make you feel like you have a friendship with the person. And that's great when it comes to interacting and like the positive things and keeping up with their story. And maybe you're entertained by them, or maybe you learn things from them, or maybe they make you feel a little less alone because they're so relatable in this world, right? Maybe they really are helping you navigate life from that parasocial, distance. However, I think that people tend to confuse the consistency of content with like actual connection. And so because you're waking up every day with this person, maybe tuning into them during the day, depending on how consistent they are, or, every week you're watching their vlog online, you feel like you know them and you have this connection with them, right? And, you know, it's like, what's wrong with that, right? What's wrong is that if you're not careful, the second someone doesn't do something that you agree with or that fits within that framework that you've set, this perception that you created, that they've likely helped you create, but whatever perception it is that you have of them, this like monolithic view, like as soon as they deviate even slightly out of that, people get upset. They have emotions, they have opinions about it. And I think that can get out of hand because it goes from commenting to like berating and like, yelling at people and like via comments, or, people will get on social media, make a whole video about what this one creator, influencer, public figure, or celebrity did. And they don't know y'all, and we don't know them, right? And so the lines have been completely blurred, and it's honestly pretty crazy. Another reason why that can be troublesome is the emotional investment, right? You know, feeling personally like offended or personally jarred by what someone you've never met and may never meet is doing, guys, that's actually a little crazy. Like, that's like you being mad at what, like, you live in New York and you're upset that a mailman or male woman in like Colorado, in a city you've never been to, has lost someone's mail. I mean, you could get mad about it because, yeah, like they shouldn't lose people's mail. That's messed up for that person. But would you like stop your whole day, stop what you're doing, pause, and like write a letter to the postal service? No, you would not. You would not. Because why? You don't know them people. Listen, the emotional investment is not worth it. I mean, I've seen people spend hours going back and forth, and none of it had anything to do with you. Nothing about your daily life has changed. Nothing about your immediate life or situation has changed. And, you are ideally upset about not necessarily, like sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes people are upset about actual tangible things that make people have done. And I get that emotion, that emotional part, but you're also in the same breath, like grieving and like feeling these strong emotions towards a person that you created in your head, like a character that you made in your head, because you will never know enough about someone on the other side of the camera. You'll only really know what they show you. And so, another issue with that is that, you know, it's exhausting. And likely what I always say is that we use social media as an escape. No matter how forward thinking you are, unless you're like completely off of it, 9 times out of 10, a portion of you uses it as an escape, right? The doom scrolling, the I'm procrastinating on something I really should be doing, but I'm doing this. And imagine how much better your life could be if you spent the however many hours you spend engaging negatively in parasocial relationships if you use that to invest positively in yourself. And speaking of energy investment, please check out I'm Marketing Plan episode ROI, strategy on life, business, and marketing after this. But yeah, it's really a waste of your energy, and it can get crazy. Like, I think also for creators, right? Influencers, public figures, celebrities, whoever may come across this video, if you're on the side of like you're the actual person that people have this parasocial relationship with, there's just so many things you have to be mindful of, and it can get, really bad. Some things that I think about are, you know, sharing your personal experience, but also managing boundaries. Like you have to have boundaries with your social community. You have to, and don't ever let anybody make you feel like, because I've seen even on TikTok and, whatever platform it is where people get this attitude of like, oh, we pay your bills, like we're, XYZ. But it's like, I think, first of all, that's a disgusting way to like look at things and look at someone like because they're choosing to share their life on their platform and you happen to like it and tune in and it makes them money. Now they owe you something. Like you have to remember, nobody owes you anything unless they really owe you something. Then that should be on paper, right? So I think before creators and public figures, it's like you have to set the hard boundary, right? And that might mean for some people turn off comments or having restrictions. It might mean, turning off your DMs. It might mean just not responding to everything. It might mean, being very clear about what you share and what you don't share, no matter how much maybe your audience may be pressing you to know certain things. It may mean, really considering sitting down and saying like, okay, these are my content pillars, right? We're in marketing, when we're building out a brand on social media, that's one of the first things we talk about is like target audience, of course, like, and that's another thing, right? Who are you talking to? Because sometimes the people that are doing the negative chatter are not the people who are your actual audience. They're really just bystanders who are just want something to talk about. They enjoy having these parasocial, chaotic conversations with everyone because that's just what they do to help them escape from whatever they may be dealing with, right, in life. And so, first of all, remembering and defining who your target audience is. Who are you talking to? And then remembering that when something comes up, is this even my audience that's upset with me or being pushy with me about something? And then really understanding them to the point where you can even manage that. And again, have these boundaries that make sense. But I think another thing is, just remembering too that like you can have privacy even while being transparent. I never, ever, ever recommend an artist, an influencer, a public figure, a celebrity, a politician, anybody to be over transparent. Remember, you only have to share what you want to share, and you get to share it in the way you prefer to share it. Just because people want to know something doesn't mean you have to tell them. Like you really don't owe people that. And I think that most creators, their niche is not telling a business. If that is your thing, even then you get to tell people your business as much as you want and however you want, right? Never feel pressure to do things a certain way or like you have to share everything in order to be successful. Instagram, all these apps, this is TV at this point, right? It's the daily news. People are going to scroll and ingest and watch no matter what you post. So do not feel pressured. I don't think authenticity, means no boundaries. Like authenticity just means you're yourself. It means that what you're talking about and sharing is real. It's authentic. It's not based off of someone else. It's based off of you and your life and your desires, your talents, your business, your brand. But it does not mean that you got to tell everybody your business. I actually think it's pretty detrimental to tell everybody your business because let me tell you something about that. They will spit your business back at you when they feel like it. And I will say, I will not say that I'm the biggest influencer, public figure in the world, but I mean, personally, I've definitely done my best to set as many boundaries as possible because people do get things confused. What's interesting with me is I feel it on multiple sides. So as an influencer creator, I feel it on that end. But then I also feel it from a career standpoint because when you're an entrepreneur and you're front facing and at the speaking engagements and have a personal brand, I mean, I get people in the corporate world, aspiring marketers. I mean, all just people who like what I do on social, people who just like me for lifestyle elements. Like there's so many different people who feel connected to me, which I really love and value. But sometimes people go a little too far. Sometimes people get a little too in your business. Sometimes people get a little too comfortable. There's a quote that I say constantly, especially to actually the artists that I manage, like familiarity breeds contempt. And just remembering that sometimes the more of yourself you give to people, the more access you give to them, the more proximity the more they tend to forget who they talking to. And so I think, and that's not to come from an egotistical place. I think it just comes from the place of like boundaries, right? Like you don't actually know me, so you can't actually speak to me a certain way or talk to me a certain way. I mean, I was infamous on Twitter X for for blocking people for talking to me crazy. Because for one, first of all, Twitter, the other day I said it, I don't smoke cigarettes, but if equivalent to a smoke break, right? I'm doing so much in a day that I'm coming on here to like vibe, talk about something that I found interesting, connect culturally, whatever, just, engage in something creative, see what's going on in the world. I'm not coming here for you to talk to me crazy. I have two parents, well, three, count my stepdad, but I have three parents and they don't talk to me crazy. So what in the world do I look like letting you just type things at me? And one thing that's, very prevalent on social media is people feel very strong behind these screens, these keyboards, and they tend to say things to people online that they would never in a million years say in real life. Like zero courage to say what they're saying to you online in real life. And so, it's just not something I tolerate. Like, you talk to me crazy, you got to go. Because if I respond, I'm likely going to respond from a place that I prefer to leave off of social media, right? And like, I present myself as myself and I want to be my best self at all times. So I don't even bother to engage. I even have a rule when it comes to like responding on social. I'm probably only going to reply to you twice max, and that's if the conversation is worth talking. Like, if as soon as somebody starts to try to go back and forth with me, bickering, whatever, some people are just doing it for engagement sometimes, right? Just to be seen in a certain algorithm. So it's like I just give it no room, zero opportunity. I'll say even with how I've always posted on social media, I always say I am like the most, and I think I said this on the intro episode of I'm the Marketing Plan, I am the most, watch that too, I am the most private public person ever. I think the way that, and not just online, but I think even when speaking to people, and this might be, I know I'm always bringing up that I'm an Aquarius, but seriously, I think we do a good job of, I always say like we have a lot of friends, but everybody's not necessarily our close friend. Um, you know, I think that when it comes to what I share with people and how I share, I think I'm very selective. And not that I'm like secretive, but I just don't think that everyone knows how to hold certain information, right? Or process certain information. So there's no reason for me to really tell you, right? Like, and there's just certain things that I hold dear because I've chosen to be front facing online and in media and in the world. There are other things that I hold very close to my chest, like my family. Like, I'm just getting to the point where I'm comfortable posting them for like holidays and like birthdays and stuff like that. And not because I don't love them, they're my world, but because literally, like, if anybody ever said or did anything within the realm of anywhere that I don't like about my family, it's going to take me there, right? And so I just am like, I just want to keep them safe from whatever craziness is going on or may come, through the interwebs online. I mean, I've gotten all types of weird stuff. I mean, I don't even post where I am in real time, which I always recommend for everyone, not just if you're a public figure or you got, your socials is jumping, but just even as people, right? Don't be so pressed to post where you're at because you just never know in this world. And I remember years and years and years ago, I think I posted somewhere as I was leaving that I was at an event and people were hitting me up like, you still here? Like, and not like they were in the event already, but like they came and like they may not have meant anything malicious, but I find that very unsafe. Like, I don't want anybody popping up on me. If you run into me, great. But I don't want anybody just showing up places. It's just not safe. Like, the world is crazy. And again, people don't necessarily know boundaries. They really feel like they're your friend. They really feel like they know you. And so, which is, again, not a bad thing in the right setting with the right boundaries, but can be very dangerous in the wrong setting without boundaries. And so, yeah, I just think maintaining a sense of privacy or even a sense of mystery, whatever you want to call it, I think it's definitely better that way. And I know we see influencers ever so often talk about how like they're uncomfortable or they get a little upset with their social media community. And it's because it's a lot. They're still a person and they're getting berated with all types of comments and messages and every time they do something. And it's like they're still also dealing with being a person in real life, real issues, real bills, real family, real friends, real relationships, real self-work that they're doing, real goals and ambitions that they have. And it's like most of the people that feel so entitled to people's sense of agency and space and opinions and everything and what they do and say and how they say it, your life is not nearly, you don't just have that much going on. And so it's like you probably couldn't survive a day in their shoes or a few hours. And so I think it's best to just be mindful and considerate that everyone is human. We're all navigating life in some way, shape, or form. And money, proximity, followers, none of that stuff like negates life, right? Like you may have more money and maybe live in a certain lifestyle, but that comes with something. Everything comes with something. And every time you get something, you have to give something away. Every time you say yes to one thing, you say no to another. So maybe, yes, I'm super successful in my career, but no, I don't get to spend any time with my family or with my children. I don't get to vacation. I miss a lot of important days and things, right? Or, yes, I'm this huge public figure, but no, I don't get any sleep, right? Or, I'm always berated with people in my face. I don't get even any time to myself. Or, dealing with regular human things we can't stop. Money doesn't stop deaths in the family. Money doesn't stop health issues. Money doesn't stop a lot of things. And so, yes, money is amazing. And maybe they have a lot more conveniences in their life than you, but they still have to work for those conveniences. And you don't know these people. And so I said all that to say to and again, I've talked about the dangers, but there's also like we see fan bases and stan bases and, people not liking that someone did a critique or said a very simple thing about an artist that they're obsessed with and they pulling people's addresses and sending death threats. And that's insane. It's too much. I mean, people have been physically hurt by parasocial relationships. Like, there was a story that I read some time ago, unfortunately, about like an influencer who like a guy like broke into her house and literally killed her. Like, and it's just like, it's crazy, but people really feel like if they spend their time, money with you, shucks, just if they watch you every day, that they have this level of entitlement to you. And I think like in society, it's something we really need to address because it's been out of hand, but it's definitely getting even more out of hand now. And I think like a lot of times, like I said, it's not necessarily even love or like support for a person. It's just projection. They feed some sort of insecurity in you or they make you escape whatever you're dealing with. And I think that's why it's important to like really stay grounded and stay self-aware and make sure that you're not too far deep in the internet, too far gone. Like I definitely think there's like a genre of person who is way too far gone in the internet. And I know the internet is now so ingrained in our everyday lives, but I think about it always as a for better or worse. Let it be better in your case. And so, yeah, I think, some things I wrote down as far as like how to stay grounded were, appreciate people's work and maybe even the lives that they've created for themselves without blurring the lines, right? Just remembering that like you still don't know this person, right? And also don't insert yourself into people's lives, into people's beefs, into whatever. Like the internet perpetuates so much. Like there are artists, public figures, celebrities who weren't even really upset with each other, but all the comments and all the side videos and all the side content that was created really pushed them to like not like each other. We've seen this happen millions and millions of times in female rappers. Like it's so crazy. We have more women in rap and we ever have had, this active, this lit, this, Billboard charting, award winning than we ever have. And it's such a beautiful thing. But every time a new rap girl pops up, what do the fans do? somehow figure out how to put her against another woman in rap that's fighting and dealing with the same challenges, the same battles, trying to climb up the same ladders, walk through the same doors. And I hate it because it's like the world already looks at women like we're so catty and unable to work with each other. But it's really the furthest thing from the truth when we're not intentionally interrupted from building bonds and being able to know that, like, just because this woman is dope in what she does doesn't mean that I suck, right? And like every time another woman accomplishes something online, that doesn't slight me, right? That I can clap for her and still be just as amazing in where I sit. And so, it's another one of those things, like, just don't perpetuate that. Like, do not do that. Don't put anyone against each other, but definitely don't put women against each other. And women, we should not be feeding into that either, because all it does is try to like prove people's point that we're too emotional and can't get nothing done. And that's a lie, because you add a woman into a mix and it turns nothing into something every single time. Okay, I'm gonna stop that rant. I love us for real. Um, but another thing I would say is, practice healthy social media consumption. One thing I've done is on iPhone for sure. I'm not sure if it does this on Android too, but you're able to set and limit how many hours you spend on different social media apps. So I'll set and say like, oh, I can only be on Instagram for 2 hours a day. I can only be on Twitter for 1 hour a day. X. I can only be on TikTok for this many hours a day. And literally, if I open my phone and I've passed my time, it'll tell me like, hey, you've reached your max for amount of time. And it's like, do you want to continue for another 15 minutes? Which is cool because you're in the middle of something cool. Or it's like, do you want to ignore this for the rest of the day? And so you have to intentionally say like, yeah, I want to be on social media for more than 2 hours. And I'm like, at first I thought I set my stuff pretty wide, but really scrolling, it's so quick how the numbers add up. And then I really do study my screen time and stuff at the end of the week, because one thing about these screens, not healthy for us. And another thing is they always like take up your time. They take up your energy. And so you have to really think about where you're putting stuff. Again, ting,